welcome back to Studioloo. It's Cindy. We are here today with episode number 9 of our flea market style traveler's notebook make-along. This is the 7th page layout. So you can find the playlist in my playlists for all of the episodes leading up to now as we go through making this journal together. So let's open it up and we'll do a quick flip to the page. Just a review of what we've done so far, and here is the new page. So let me share this one with you. So your base page is going to be made from a piece of construction paper, like children's construction paper. You could also use coffee dyed paper, a book page, whatever you have, just some kind of a substantial kind of paper, thicker paper like watercolor or sketchbook, mixed media, etc. And you could color it any way you wanted. You could use inks, coffee, whatever. So anyways, let's get into it. So the first page has a little cluster pocket here, and the cluster is made from different scraps of paper. You should use your scraps for this, and a little bit of fabric as well. And then it is glued down with sort of an angle of glue here to make it a pocket for just a little diagram. So this is just a little floral diagram to illustrate the parts of a flower, and I just took like a scrap piece of ledger and attached it to the back for writing space. So it's just like a little, note. And then we're going to use some kind of a tab. I used a Stampin' Up! Whale tail tab up here, but you could use any kind of tab. You could hand cut a tab. And then we'll put a little word snippet up here of just an interesting word. So I chose mirror. Also inked around it to make it nice and grungy. Now the inside spread, we're going to do a flip out using washi tape of a small children's book page. And then on the inside, we're going to add some writing space and some kind of a focal point. So I've added coffee dyed paper. I didn't completely cover up the words, and I've added a little bit of a book, a field guide that I cut out with my stamp punch. Now this page is a traditional book page pocket with a little thumb hole here and a little tiny collage of a couple scraps here. And then we have a glue down at the back here of just scrapbook paper, just for some interest. And inside the pocket, I made a fabric sample tag, basically. So the way that we make this is you choose a picture. I chose this cute cat from a vintage children's book, and then you choose 3 fabrics that have something to do with the picture. So the blue, the water, the yellow, the duckling, the pink, the ribbon. And then what you're going to do is take a scrap piece of paper, and you will cover it with coffee dyed paper, add these, do some stitching, and you have this lovely tag. So I will walk you through the process of that. And then on this side, we're going to do a little fabric project with 2 fabric tabs, just these fabric sort of pulls, and I will walk you through that process as well. So now we can get started on the journal that we're making together. I will just set our prototype here with the journal that it goes to. I'll just stand it back here where it's out of the way. Now, I've got a bunch of supplies I pulled out ahead of time for this process, so I'll set those aside for a moment. So here is our journal that we're going to work on together. So I will just set that over here and get started on the process. So put all my supplies to the journal. Now here we go. I've got this piece of construction paper. So I often find these in thrift stores. It's like this interesting construction paper that's kind of got some different coloration to it, but you can also use plain construction paper. So the first thing we'll do is just fold it in half, and then you need to size it down to the size of your journal. So you can measure it against your journal and just kind of get a good size, which is what I will do here with my guillotine hanging out with me. So lengthwise, I could stand to lose a bit. So let's do that part first. I'm not going to measure. I don't really need to. I can kind of eyeball it. So I'll go to about 8, maybe 8.1. There we go. And then just check and make sure we're good. Okay, and then we need to lose a little bit here, a little more. So I'm going to take about 1 inch off. go to about 5 inches. Okay, get rid of those scraps. All right, so let's get started making the cluster for the front of this. So making a cluster is super easy. I'm going to do it starting with just this old book page. And I'm just grabbing things out of my scrap bin. So I like the text from this book, so I'm going to use a bit of that in the background. I'm just going to tear out a bit of this. So we'll just glue that up with glue. Pop that on here. Sorry, I'm just grabbing for something interesting here. Okay, so I've got this, this is a digital from, I'm just going to use a bit of it here. I'm going to pull some of this off. So we have this floral. So I'm just going to rip around here. And maybe tear it a little smaller. Okay. So you just want a couple of pieces of paper in the background to make your cluster interesting. Okay. Then grab a piece of scrap fabric. So I've got a little bit of this red. How would that look? It's a little bright with the pink. Here we go. Here's some more neutral. I'm just going to grab a little piece of that. Okay, and then I'm also going to glue stick this down with a good glue stick. This glue stick's really great for fabric, but if yours isn't so much, then go ahead and use Fabri-Tac or some other kind of a fabric glue. I'm just going to kind of bend it a little and make the shape a little bit unusual. There we go. And then you could decide if you want any kind of a focal point here. Like maybe the papers you used weren't a focal point. This one for me, I feel like it is a good focal point, so I'm good with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and tear around this. I'm going to leave a little bit of this old book page visible because it's got a really nice color to it. Okay. Take off any weak edges here. That's good. All right, so then we're going to put this here. I'm going to use our glitter glue. And I'm just going to kind of glue a little curved line here because we're making this into a pocket. Okay. Now we need something to go in the pocket. So I have set aside something. Yeah. So I've got this little botanical sort of drawing that's got the parts of the sapling. I'm going to just take this leftover scrap here of ledger. If I have enough of it, I think I do, just enough, and I'm just going to glue that on there. This is just like a rough little fun paper note. It doesn't need to be overly complex ephemera. What I like about this kind of journal is some of our pieces of ephemera are time consuming and some of them don't have to be. You can just do something fun or even like use a vintage document of some kind if you have them. I'm using a few vintage documents in this journal, but I didn't want to make it all vintage document related because a lot of people don't have access to that. And I wanted it to be a little more about making and keep it a little inclusive to everyone and their ability to find things. So there we go. Easy little note right there. So now we need a tab of some kind for the top of here. So like this one, right? We're gonna make that tab. So let me find, I have a few pre-cut tabs I know already, but you can punch a tab if you have a tab punch, or you can, these ones are sideways. I know I have another one in here. You could even like cut out a shape like this and fold it and make it into a tab. There's lots of things. You could even use a traditional shape and make a tab out of it. You could use 2 postage stamps and glue them back to make a tab, or 2 other little things. It's not really that major. I'm not seeing a tab. There's one. Hold on. There we go. I knew I had some already punched that are just plain, so I might as well use the ones I already have rather than make more. So now I'll just fold my tab here in half. And then I'm just going to ink around it. There we go. Now we need some kind of an interesting word. I'm going to pull something from here, this old copy of Black Beauty, which is a really, honestly, awful story. It's like Old Yeller. It's very sad and violent and terrible. So I'm happy that I'm cutting this up. If you see anything here that's like disturbing, I apologize, because there's a lot of disturbing things. You know what I'm going to use, actually? So you want a word that's small enough to fit on your little tab. And I suggest like use something that's kind of just eclectic and interesting. Like this is too big, right? So I'm actually going to cut it in half, and I'm going to put one on top of the other word. So we'll have look up high here on the tab. Oops. Sorry, this kind of work, doing these tiny glue jobs always gets me all sticky, and there's a thread stuck to my glue apparently. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Whoops. Look around. Just give it a bit of a press with my side of my hand. Then I will use art glitter glue. But actually, you know what? No, let's not attach it yet. Let's just set this aside because we have one other step that will, I think, look better. So over here, I want to do the glued down piece of scrapbook paper here to just add a bit of color interest, and I want the tab on top of it. But you know, the other thing that I should do even before that is the flip out, the tip out, because that's like the, I guess, more construction kind of aspect of all of this. And this is actually what I did first on the prototype, but it doesn't matter. This will not affect this, but let's do this first, okay? So what you'll do, open your paper up. So this is the front page. This is going to, the image is going to be here. So just go ahead and line them up top to top, you know, leave a little gap there between the two of them. Now I'm going to use washi tape to attach these, but I'm going to use glue stick because washi tape typically doesn't have permanent glue on it. So we'll just roll our washi tape on our glue until we think we have just about enough to seal here. Okay, just run it down there. Good, good. You can tear or cut. It doesn't want to tear, so I will cut. Okay. And then flip it over, and we're going to do the same thing on the back. I like to washi tape my hinges like this on both sides because it's stronger. And I also like to leave a little gap. Just think the hinge is nicer. So there we go. So just make sure that your tape's not overrunning the size of your page, otherwise you'll get a really annoying little blip there that will bother you. And then I just run my bone folder down that crease between the two pages, just the side of it, not like anything sharp, because you don't want to actually cut the tape. And you can do that on both sides to just make a neat indent. Then it should fold in very nicely. You can run your bone folder again. So now we have our tip out. Okay. So next, let's do the piece of scrapbook or whatever kind of paper you want to put there. I have like a ton of leftover bits of scrapbook paper. So I will go with this one, I think. Needs to go this way though. So let's just tear that off. So then just measure your piece against here and fold it at the seam of the paper. So see that? You can actually just fold the paper and it will fold both. And there you go. That's a good way to get like a decent measurement for what you want. And I'll just use my tear ruler here. Not my tear ruler, my regular metal ruler. I'll just tear the edge of that off. Okay, and then just check your size here, make sure it's all good. Yep. So let's glue this down. And again, this is just decorative. It's just interesting. Gives some layers to your pages, you know, to just make them a little more fun when you're flipping through, you see more things. And you could add more to this if you wanted. You could do a little collage on it by all means. You could, you know, do washi tape on it, whatever. Okay, so there's that. Now let's go ahead and we'll finish up the first page by adding our tab. So we'll fold that back in and then we'll be here at the end of the first page. So just glue your tab on. Making sure to get your words on the front. You could put words on both sides too. I just line it up here. Okay. Good, good. So this page is complete. Okay. So now let's finish up this page. So the next thing we need is a piece of paper to make writing space here. So I've got some scrap kind of tea-dyed paper. I think I'll use that. Just kind of make a fold here. I just lined it up so it's relatively straight. Okay, there's that. And I'm just going to glue that down with glue stick. Okay, so now we've got writing space on the inside of the book page. And then I just want to add something to add a little interest to the page. So let's find some fun little bit or bob here. Maybe this. It's just a little piece from a book with a floral border. So I'm just going to ink around it here. That's why it's good to keep like little scraps of interesting papers in a basket that you have hanging around where you work, so that you always have like little extras that you can add. Kind of makes all the difference in making things look interesting. Okay, so now we need a book page pocket down here at the bottom to hold our tag. So let's do that first, because I think the bulk of the work in this project actually I think is in two things, the tag and the fabric tab pulls. So I'm just taking this picture of my, or this page of my glue book. It's just a very old book. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to one side, sort of like one half, because I'm going to fold it together and I want it to stay folded together. Oops. There we go. Little crease there. It's okay if you get a crease like that. Just press it down. It does not hurt anything. And it's actually kind of fun and interesting. You could even, like, you know, ink it, accent your mistakes. They look even cooler. Okay. Now I want to put some kind of a tab up top, a thumb hole. But first I just want to cut off this scraggly bit where I tore it out of the book, because it's just, I don't want it to degrade over time. So there we go. We just add a little thumb hole, and then because I did inking, I'm just going to ink the thumb hole a bit. Now we're just going to glue this down. So just glue the two sides and the bottom. Okay, and just make sure you don't go over your middle of the page seam. Keep it on the page. Okay, so that's down. Now, I want something that's like a little bit of interest that I'm going to add on there, I think. I added this here on this one, so I'll do something, but I'm going to do it on this side so I don't lose that fun crease. So again, let's see what I have. Got these grapes. They're kind of out of place, though. I don't think that grapes necessarily make sense. Got like a number, and maybe this. Got this. This is torn from a magazine, so I'm going to just cut it out. It's logos from pottery. So I think I'll just make like a little collage with those. Okay. All right, there we go. So now we need to get on to making the tag. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what we're making. So this is your sample tag. So what I recommend using as a base for this is a large book page that is not important to you. So something like this. This is from my large glue book that I use. It's an old art book that I don't need for anything. I'm not going to use any of the black and white images or text out of it. So then just fold it in half. This is going to give you a secure base for your tag, okay? So then what you want to do is you just want to compare the size of your page to this, because you don't want the tag to like shoot out of the book, right? So now you want to basically trim it down. I'm going to go probably a little over an inch. Tear it. Then you want to check your width. So I'm going to put the crease on this side so that this page stays together, okay? Because I want it to be two layers. So the two creases are here. So if I line those up, or even better actually, don't do that. Ignore me. Use the pocket as your guide, because that's where it's going inside. And you want to leave maybe like a 1/4 inch of allowance. So I'd say maybe right there is where I want to trim this down. So I'm going to just make a little pencil line there so I know where to tear. I'm using the wrong book. I should be using our book. Yeah, that still works. Okay. So set our book aside and our tag. Now we're going to just tear down that line, get rid of the scrap, and then let's just glue this together a little bit. You don't need a lot of glue because we're going to do some stitching. So this project does require some stitching. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can use Fabri-Tac to glue your images and fabrics down, but I do think stitching really makes this project because it just gives a nice framing, especially to the swatches. So okay, so the image I chose for this one is actually just the other half of the book page from this picture. So what I will do is I will trim it down to a smaller size that will fit on my tag. basically just going to get rid of the border. And I want to include our duck. Okay. And then we'll just make sure that it doesn't take up the whole thing, because we need some space down here. And actually it needs to go down a little more because I have to account for the fact that I'll be cutting it at an angle to be a tag. So let's just only leave a little bit of the duck's body. And so if we imagine it there, that's good. Okay. So now let's finish prepping our tag base. So let's cover the front, just the front, with some coffee dyed paper or any other kind of paper you like. I recommend something neutral though, because you'll want the focus to be on the image and the swatches, not on the background. So we'll just glue coffee dyed paper on here. And we're just going to cut around. Oops. All right, and leave the back. Don't do any covering of the back yet. Okay. Just give that a nice flattening. Now let's cut this into a tag. So trim one side. Use your leftover paper as a guide on this side. All right, so now we are ready to glue down our picture. And where I'm going to glue it is I'm going to line it up with these kind of 2 points, maybe a little above them, but I'm going to try to get it right in the center and keep it straight if I can. Okay. All right, so there's our picture. Now we need 3 pieces of coordinating fabric here. So we can go with blues, whites, oranges, greens, yellows. So I'm just pulling from my scrap bin over here. I've got this little bit of indigo, and I think that would be nice because of the water. So now you're going to cut your swatch to be about this, this size. So it's got to go a little smaller. It's a little bit too tall because it has to go under the picture and still leave a little room. Okay, 1. And then we need 2 more. So leave room, make them the size of that. So there's that. Then just looking for fabrics in my scrap. Hold on. Okay, so here is an orange fabric. So grab a little bit of that. Okay, and then there's a yellow. I just need to trim that a little bit. Okay, so now just take your glue stick and just glue the back of the fabric. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can use Fabri-Tac or fabric glue. Okay, let's get that on there straight. There. All right, so now we need to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew around the 4 corners of the picture, and then we're going to do a square inside each of the swatches, okay? Because that kind of makes it look more like a swatch. So once you've done that, we'll be ready for the next step. I will be right back. All right, we're back. So let's just go ahead and trim all our threads. So I used just a single stitch. And I broke my thread between each of my 4 squares that I've sewn here. And these scissors are not for fabric, so ignore my struggles. Okay. Okay, so there we go. So the reason that I told you not to back the back is because now we have the opportunity that we're going to be able to cover all those stitches. I wouldn't have wanted all that on the writing space, right? So, okay, so now we're going to cover the back, and then we're going to put some lace on the top or something interesting, some ribbon. So what I will cover the back of this with is just, I have this scrap of avocado dyed torn up paper, and I'm going to use that to back this one. The last one I used ledger paper that was also from my scraps. I dye a lot of paper, and every now and then something goes awry, and these are my background pages. All right. So now we'll just clip around the edge here. Alright, rid of this paper, and then just kind of give it a nice press on the back, and you'll see those fun imprints on the back too of the stitching. Oops. Alright, so now we need to put this here. Okay, so now we need our ribbon for the top. I think, yeah, I do have some here. So I'm going to use the same one that I used for this one. I've got another little length of it here. So I'll just go ahead and snip that in half. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to just hold it. You can glue it if you want, but I'm just going to hold on to it, and I'm going to run it through the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch across the ribbon and then around the whole edge of the tag. I will be right back again. All right, so we'll trim off our threads again. From all that stitching. Alrighty, so that is all done. Okay, so now bring that on over here, and this tag is going to go inside our book page pocket, like so. So you know what, it was serendipitous that I chose orange because it matches the cat. I did not plan that. Alrighty, so let's see what's next. I think it's our fabric, right? Our fabric pulls. So put that back in here. So now we're going to make these two kind of fun layered fabric tab pulls. So I will grab my fabric here. I chose this. So it's not cut straight, as you can see, which is totally perfect for this project. So you need about 1.5 inches of width. Just tear that off. Then I want another piece of fabric that's maybe 1 inch wide that runs down the whole length of this. I'm just going to choose something here. I didn't pick out everything. Maybe this. This is nice. This is a woven leafy kind of fabric. So we'll just go to about there. See if I can pull some bits and bobs off that. Okay. So then we're going to lay that here. Now, this is totally up to you. On my prototype, I glued them down. I'm not going to glue them down this time because I don't need to waste the glue. It's like I can do it all on the sewing machine. But if you're not sewing, go ahead and use Fabri-Tac and glue this to here. Then I just want 2 more pieces of fabric that are, you know, kind of going to pop. Like they're going to be complementary, but they'll also pop. So they're just scraps. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. So if we imagine we're creating 2 separate tabs, right? We want a point of interest on both. So this one I'm going to put here, and then this one I'm going to put here. Now, when I go to the sewing machine, again, if you're not sewing glue, I'm going to start my stitching right here. I'm going to stitch through the center of this, then go down here through the center, and then through the center of this. So everything gets affixed, okay? So I'm going to go do that single line of stitching. I'm going to use zigzag. You could use any stitch, and then I will be right back to show you the next step. Okay, as promised, we've got this zigzag stitch. So now we're going to just roughly cut this in half, as so. So now you have two pieces. So what we're going to do is, and again, you can glue if you're not going to sew, I'm just going to fold them in half like this. And then I'm going to use a single stitch, maybe a zigzag. So the other thing is you can use a zigzag or whatever, because it's not just your paper that's going to keep it strong. You're sewing through fabric on either side of the paper. So it's not going to be a weak, a weak bind essentially. So then basically you're going to have both of them on here. You're going to do this one at a time on your sewing machine, but I'm going to leave it connected in the middle and just sew straight through. So sort of like that kind of placement. Okay, so I'll go back to the sewing machine. I'm going to start here, and then I probably won't sew right through. Actually, I will raise my needle, clip my threads, and then sew through the other one. I will be back again. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see, I've stitched here, zigzag stitch, just bring it up a little closer so you can see, and then the back. I'm leaving the threads on. This got smushed down here, which is awesome. I like that it's so scrappy. So here we go. There's the two of them together. So my prototype is here, and the one we did together is here. So super fun and easy. Let's go ahead and put them in the journals again. So I'll put my original prototype, I'll pop it back in here. Goes inside our ledger paper. And now the journal that we're making together. See this pink and red theme happening in this one, which I love. Okay, so inside our ledger paper here, plunk that inside. So this is what the spread looks like from this side, and then from this side. So the tabs will stick out the edge of the journal, which is what I intend, because it's nice to have something there. So that is our project for today. We're still not chunky enough. We can keep going. I'm going to keep going until I feel like this journal is about the size that we want it to be. So thank you so much for joining me again. You can find all of the videos in this series under my playlist, Flea Market Style TN Make Along. And I will be back again soon with episode number 10. So thank you and have a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe. You can find all my social media information down below in the description box. Bye for now.